Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Judgment. So far with just my experience with the entire Ryu ga Gotoku studio universe has just been Yakuza 0 through 6. So I've played all of those and I've really enjoyed them. So I wanted to play like all the games based on when they were released, and I knew that Judgment came out before Yakuza 7. So I wanted to try that first. So yeah, that's what I did. So prior to playing Judgment, I didn't know anything like really particular about the game, which is a good thing for me, since this is like a very narrative heavy game. I'm really glad I went in not knowing anything, like kind of how I did knowing one of the big spoilers for Yakuza 6. But yeah, so the basic overview of the plot is a former lawyer who is now a detective, Yagami, investigates the serial murders of several Yakuza which have been appearing throughout Kamurocho. This, gets him involved in the main plot of the story. So the gameplay, at least in terms of combat, is very similar to the Yakuza series, although now there are like new things. Since Yagami isn't a Yakuza, he's a detective, there are like new things which only he could really pull off. He'll have missions where he needs to like follow a suspect, or he needs to pick a lock, find evidence, present evidence, all these sort of deductive skills. So it's kind of like so there's like a part of it where it's like the investigation from like an Ace Attorney scene where you have to like scour the scene for evidence and find it. And although you don't present evidence nearly as much as an Ace Attorney, you do have opportunities to do that several times throughout the game, which I thought was nice since I am an Ace Attorney fan. But other than that, I'm going to go straight into the things that I liked and things I didn't like, as I do with most of my review videos. So I think by far the greatest aspect of Judgment is its story. Because just I'm thinking about it in my own mind, like throughout all the Yakuza games, this one fitting in there is like in the top 3 in terms of like how good its story and its strong narrative was. And that's really good because I've loved a lot of the stories from these games, and I think that they're all at like, even at their worst, they're still pretty good. But I don't like getting into like spoilery things or any of that, but I'll just say this right now, this is like one of the best in the entire series, and that's kind of what I've heard from like other people talking about this game as well, is that this is one of the best. So another thing that I do really like about this game is, since I have the PS5 remastered version, it runs at 1440p at 60 frames a second, and it does run super well, and it looks very, very nice because of that high resolution. There's not really that much I can talk about besides the fact that it runs great. So moving on from that, I think that the characters in the game themselves are actually very unique, since you're not really just dealing with like a Yakuza cast who are all Yakuza basically, except for maybe like Haruka or Akiyama, who tend to be like the only two that aren't like involved in the Yakuza. You get like a lot of new faces, like the Genda Law Office people, and of course you do have some Yakuza characters like the people from the Matsugane family, and Kaito, who's an ex-Yakuza now hired by Yagami to run his detective agency. And I just think that the characters themselves are all like very fleshed out. I think that they're all just like really unique, and it was a nice change of pace from what you normally see in most of the Yakuza games, where each of the characters are all Yakuza. But getting into gameplay sorts of things, I like what this game did with its EXP system. So it kind of went more back to a traditional XP system, where it's not like you have like certain types of different XPs that you get by doing different things. It's just all with one general EXP, which you can spend on literally anything if you've unlocked it. So I think that is kind of like going back towards what it was like in Yakuza 0 and Kiwami, where it's just one broad XP system that you can spend towards anything, except in those games it's more like a skill tree, so you have to like work your way up to the stronger stuff. But in this one, it's pretty much just like you can get whatever, as long as it's not like a level 3. You have to work your way up from 1 to 2 to 3, but other than that, you can pretty much start with like a lot of stuff. Okay, so this one's also story, so I'm not gonna say too much about it, but I think that the antagonist, not the final boss, but just the antagonist of this game, is probably one of the strongest in the entire series. Because I just really like when, a villain isn't like the sort of like typical like I'm doing this for money or for power or for ambition or greed. This like you have a villain who genuinely thinks that what they're doing is like the good and the righteous just path, and you have like the protagonist who also thinks that they're on the right path, and it's just this clash of like whose justice is greater. And I think that since this is like a game about like finding the truth and real justice, like I think that it works so well with the antagonist. I really loved how it ended. But yeah, also things I really liked. This has got to be one of the best soundtracks that RGG has ever made. Like I'm not even joking. Like the tracks I'm playing all throughout the song, I thought they were all insanely good. So I mean, I'm just gonna let the tracks speak for themselves. They're all playing throughout the video anyway. But it's really good. On another note, the combat, I kind of complained a little bit about the combat in Yakuza 6 for being so different and kind of like ragdolly, just like the physics were kind of strange, but I think that it's a lot more refined in Judgment, and a part of that is just because people don't get ragdolled every 5 seconds like they did in those two games. Like I feel like there's like a lot more substance for comboing and other things. But one of the biggest things that I think has improved combat is style switching has been brought back. So there's not 4 different styles like there were in Yakuza, Kiwami, and 0, but you do have 2 which are very useful most of the time. So you have Crane style, which is usually when you're fighting more than one opponent, that's going to be really good for like big attacks that can hit multiple people at once. And Tiger style, which is good for just fighting off one particular person. But most of the time I would just out of Tiger just because it just did more damage. And it was just, I'm more the person to pick off people one by one than just try to get them all at the same time with bigger attacks that do less damage. But I do think that they're both pretty cool. So yeah, because this is a RGG game, instead of like sub-stories, you have main cases, which is like the main story, and side cases. So Yagami will like help out people, like find their cat, or find their son that's hiding, or other sort of, some of them are like normal detective things, but some of them are a little bit, more silly. I guess like overall Judgment's a bit more serious in tone than Yakuza is, like outside of the main story. But I think that, the side cases were a nice breather from the main story, where if I got tired of that for a minute, I'd just be like, okay, I guess I'll go do some side cases, just do that for a while, and then once I lose interest in that, go back to the main story. So it's something that offers a nice change of pace, and it gets you money, and that's good. So because this is an RGG game, there's lots of mini games. So you got drone racing now, casino games, the arcade games, darts, baseball. I think that overall the mini games are not quite as much as they were in other Yakuza games, but I still thought that it was a pretty nice variety, especially with new stuff like drone racing, even though I only did that like a couple of times just to kind of test it out. Oh wait, and there's that board game one too, which I did like once and I didn't really like that much. It's kind of just like Mario Party. But yeah, I mean, I thought some of the mini games were pretty good. Like darts and baseball are probably my favorites, and casino ones. So because this game is running in the Dragon engine, like the graphics in this game are actually like really good. I kind of said this about Yakuza 6, but I think these like graphics are up there with like games like Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like they just look outstanding, and like just giving them a higher resolution just makes them look phenomenal. I don't know what kind of thing they did to cook this up in their engine to make everything look so nice, but it really paid off. This is just another thing I'm just impressed by coming from RGG is I noticed this in the subtitles. I was like, because I knew that there was an English dub for this game, but I was like, I don't know if these actually fit the thing or not. Like, I didn't know if they were using like the English dub as the subtitles for the Japanese audio sometimes, so I looked it up, and apparently that wasn't the case. They localized the game twice, so they have like separate subtitles that are different from the English subtitles for the English dub for people who are listening to the Japanese audio with subtitles. So I was like, oh dang, that's impressive. They actually did that thing twice. Because I think it's kind of awkward when they're using the English dub subtitles, and it clearly doesn't match with the Japanese audio. That's just something that always bugs me, but that is definitely not the case with this, and I'm very impressed they actually went to such lengths to localize the game in English twice. And this one's also a little bit spoilery, so I'm going to be very, not going to talk about it much. Just throw it out there. Like, every game has like a final chapter that like leads up to like the final battle, and this one is, if not the best, it's the second best in the entire series. Like, it's insane. Like, I just loved every second of the final like chapter of this game. It was all fantastic.
Another cool thing that they added to Judgment that's different from Yakuza is they have this, like, it's the best way to describe it is kind of like social links from Persona, where you like talk to a person gradually and then like you level up their like gauge until like it's full, and then like they're officially your friend. But you can do this with a lot of people throughout the thing, and like as you do it, it like will build up your reputation throughout the city, and once your reputation like reaches certain like points, you unlock like new side cases, which is pretty neat. Also, like Persona, there's a dating like side, it's kind of like a side game where like you can date up to like 4 people. And that's kind of neat. I did all of them just to see how they turned out, and they were all decently interesting, nice little breaks from the main story. But overall, I thought that was like a nice addition that like they didn't have to do that, but it was just another nice change of pace outside of like the mini games and the side cases.
There are a few cons, but I'll just get into those really quickly. I can't believe this is my biggest issue with the game, but there's no karaoke. I wanted to hear Yagami singing, but there's no karaoke minigame in this one. So if I want to listen to him sing, I have to listen to AI covers on YouTube. I just wanted to listen to it in the game, though. That's like half a joke, and that's still like my biggest issue with the game. Whatever. I guess this one is sort of one. I think there was a bit of lost potential, because in Yakuza Kiwami 2, he had dramatic finishes where, like, when the boss was getting low on health, you could, like, finish him off in a really cool way, by, pressing, like, it's like a cute quick time event sequence, so you just gotta press all the buttons at the right time, and you do, like, a final heat attack that'll finish the fight, and it's just really cool. But they don't have that here, and I feel like the game would have really benefited from having a dramatic finish for a lot of the bosses. But that's just sort of a thing. Like, I think it's fine without it, but it would have been just like probably 4 times better if it did have it. Then the last thing is something I kind of noticed both in Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2. I think it's just something with the Dragon Engine, but the lighting glitches are weird sometimes. Like, I'm gonna show some examples on the screen. There was one time where I noticed the lighting was just like really off in a spot where I'd seen it be normal before, and then there's like a few other bugs I'd seen throughout the game, which those ones are more funny, but I did think they were worth noticing that there were some strange bugs, besides that the lighting was weird. But yeah, other than that, that's about it. I think if I had to rate Judgment, this is going up there with the 7 out of 7s. Like, this game just like blew me away. Like, I was thinking that since it's kind of like, it's not mainline Yakuza, it's just like a side project that RGG did, but I think this is up there in quality with like all the rest of the really good ones. I still can't like decide in my mind whether or not I like Judgment as the name or Judge Eyes, because I think Judge Eyes is a little bit more appropriate thematically with the story, and it fits with the story better than Judgment does, but Judgment's a lot more snappier and cooler sounding, quite frankly. It's kind of like Yakuza and Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon's a bit more appropriate for the story, since Kiryu's only Yakuza in like 2 of the games. But Like a Dragon, it's not as quick and snappy as Yakuza is. Like, you say Yakuza and you have a image in your mind immediately. Oh yeah, I know what Yakuza are. And Like a Dragon is like, But anyway, so here's like the new tier list for all of the RGG games. But yeah, I guess Yakuza 7 will be next now. I am looking forward to that because I've heard that one is really good, like one of the best. But yeah, other than that, feel free to let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments. I'll see y'all next time.